Yes, my Obidient family, just watch this video. You go know say there is hope. And as you dey watch am, make sure say you dey hit this like button, you dey share am so that make all those people make don lose courage, make dem get their mindset back. Say this race we must run and finish. Share and hit the like button.
All matters pending in the court that sought to stop the inauguration of Tinubu have all come and gone, and none failed to stop him. The only surviving one is the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Of course, this court is a constitutional one. They are responsible for hearing election disputes from the presidential election. And as you are aware, the main hearing will start on Tuesday, 30th May 2023. Now, let's see how the recent Supreme Court judgment that dismissed the double nomination of Shettima brought by the PDP will affect Peter Obi and the Labour Party's petition. Shettima's double nomination is actually one of the prayers of Peter Obi and the Labour Party. Their party is not dependent on the disqualification of Tinubu as many will want people to believe. It's just a part of it. When one goes to court, especially an election tribunal, you are allowed to seek as many reliefs as possible. This is because the court can never grant a relief that a plaintiff did not seek. The judges can't overreach themselves in a matter. If they ever do, it will mean that they are biased. So a plaintiff must cover all areas that relate to his case and seek reliefs based on that, so that any one of them that the court grants in their favor, the reliefs sought will equally be approved by the court. So the more the reliefs a plaintiff seeks in the court, the higher the chances of him winning. This is not to say that Peter Obi's petition is not seeking to prove that he won the election. In fact, this is the main matter. If they do not have evidence that he won the election, they wouldn't have filed a petition at the election tribunal at all. All the other prayers are just additions that anyone will naturally include in his petition. Now to the Supreme Court judgment and how it will affect Peter Obi's petition. The Supreme Court said that the PDP had no locus standi to bring the case to court. The Supreme Court said this because the Electoral Act 2022 prohibits a non-party member from bringing issues that relate to nominations, party primaries, and others in court. That's why they use the word interloper in describing the PDP. The only time a non-party member can bring these such matters to court is after the election, and that person must definitely be a participant in the said election. These are among many amendments that the lawmakers made to the 2010 Electoral Act. Before the amendments, anyone could bring anything, wasting the court's time, so they had to amend and remove all the clauses. Does it mean that the inclusion of Shettima's double nomination in Peter Obi's petition is now dead on arrival? It's not straightforward, but the Supreme Court did not stop at saying that the PDP had no locus standi. They went further to provide the date that Shettima wrote a letter to his party, relinquishing his senatorial nomination, and that the party wrote INEC the same day. So while Peter Obi can be said to have locus standi to bring the matter to court, the fact that the Supreme Court answered the question surrounding double nomination that Shettima had renders this prayer ineffective. The Supreme Court proved that there was no double nomination, so effectively this judgment will guide the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal judges. Also, while delivering his own judgment at the Supreme Court, Honorable Justice Inyang Okoro accused the PDP of using social media to bully the justices of the Supreme Court. While people are free to express their opinions anywhere, going personal on the judges won't help anyone. Rather, it might even backfire. Anyway, this is what you get when the country isn't working. There are so many frustration, and recent happenings and judgments delivered by the courts have made many people to lose faith in the judiciary. In fact, as time goes on, the trust level keeps plunging. Until the courts stop delivering judgments based on technicality, the people will never take them seriously. And if they don't take them seriously, they can never respect them. When the law says that no one must participate in two primary elections in an election season, and the Supreme Court, which their judgment shapes our policy, rules in favor of someone who did not participate in a senatorial primary election as the winner of the said election, what kind of magic is that? And the worst part is that the two lower courts upheld the Electoral Act and the Supreme Court found a way to upturn their decision. Also, one of the beneficiaries of the judgment is now the front runner to be the Senate President. When Nigerians see judgments like this coming from the Supreme Court, their faith in the judiciary keeps going down. People in leadership positions should always avoid controversial matters that affect people's trust in government. When people believe that they can never get justice in Nigeria because they don't have money, they won't bother seeking redress in court. They would rather take the law in their own hands. The judiciary needs to realize that the more people have confidence in them, the more people will seek redress in court. The more the increase in court activities, which ultimately translates to more revenue, which will enable them to be financially independent and not relying on the executive branch for funding. It can enable them to fully exercise their powers without trying to please anyone. They can also increase the salaries and benefits of all judicial workers so that they will never rely on tips and bribes from others in order to do their jobs. Another thing to watch out for when the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal resumes hearing on Tuesday, 30th May 2023, is how Tinubu's legal team will defend him. Although the Labour Party legal team are aware of this, but many people didn't pay attention. Tinubu and the federal government actually responded to the now dismissed application at the Federal High Court in Abuja that was brought by Abuja registered voters. That application sought to stop the inauguration of Tinubu. In their laughable response, they begged the court not to stop the inauguration because it will cause a constitutional crisis. This is not true. Even if the court stopped its inauguration, there is a constitutional provision on what should happen. The Constitution provides for who will take over power. Let's not get into details so as not to derail from their responses. We've already made a video about this particular scenario in case it plays out. So you can watch the video to find out. The video link will be at the end of this video. They also asked the court not to stop the inauguration because of the foreign presidents and dignitaries that will be coming for the swearing-in ceremony. How does the arrival of foreign dignitaries have anything to do with the legality of the inauguration? Also, they talked about jurisdiction, which of course the court accepted. In summary, they made no attempt to respond to the issues raised by the applicants. They were only looking for technical loopholes to convince the judge. This is exactly what will play out at the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal. Because the evidence is so overwhelming, in trying to hide the evidence, INEC is already in contempt of court, which in the eyes of the law, they've already shown guilt by withholding evidence. If the representatives of INEC honestly want the court to believe that the presidential election results they called were the true votes cast by Nigerian voters on election day, why not provide the evidence? This is the main issue. Based on this alone, it is advantage to Labour Party. Not forgetting the 25% requirement in Abuja, which many thought the tribunal would have heard before the pre-hearing and subsequent adjournment. Anyway, that window of opportunity is now over. The judges still need to understand that Abuja 25% is now a contentious issue, despite the fact that there are two judicial precedents that affirm that 25% is required in Abuja for a presidential candidate to be declared winner. They should have seen it as a patriotic duty to set the record straight. Is 25% of the total votes cast in the FCT mandatory or not? They should have answered this simple question before the inauguration. No matter how they answer, they should have taken a position in order to clear all doubts. Because the government clearly violating our constitution will seriously harm our democracy. Even outsiders will see Nigeria as a lawless country where the breaking of the law doesn't have consequence. This is a missed opportunity by the judiciary to restore some of the faith that Nigerians have lost in them. They've refused to answer a simple question about the legality of the presidential election winner as announced by INEC. If people in power aren't bent on violating the constitution, the 25% issue isn't even supposed to come to court in the first place because of the Supreme Court judgment in Buhari versus Yaradua. INEC should have taken advice from the judgment pending when another judgment is delivered in the future. But because they had a predetermined winner before the election started, they did everything to favor the APC. By the way, many people think they forgot to rig in Abuja. No, they didn't forget. They tried, but it didn't work. You can see this video of a police officer in uniform. He did the unthinkable. He snatched ballot papers in front of the massive crowd. As usual, we will be bringing you the summary of the petition hearing every evening. Thanks for watching.
Wicked people, Nigerians, police officers, this is kind of thing. Just imagine. Just imagine. Just imagine. What